here is the Amy Coney Barrett ceremony, the swearing in, if you will. The Trump campaign immediately turned it into a campaign ad, like within, I don't know, moments. Were they actually? Maybe they were doing live cutting as they were watching this. Here it is. This is from last night at the White House.
On this October evening, the First Lady and I welcome you to the White House to bear witness to history. In a few moments, we will proudly swear in the newest member of the United States Supreme Court, Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She is one of our nation's most brilliant legal scholars, and she will make an outstanding justice on the highest court in our land. The American people have been profoundly impressed to learn of her achievements, her compassion, her generosity, her faith, and her sterling character. Justice Barrett made clear she will issue rulings based solely upon a faithful reading of the law and the Constitution as written, not legislate from the bench. Justice Barrett, as you take your oath tonight, the legacy of our ancestors falls to you. The American people put their trust in you and their faith in you as you take up the task of defending our laws, our Constitution, and this country that we all love.
Wow. I'm struck by, they wanted this ad. Obviously, you can see the way they shot it. I mean, this was all about the advertisement they were going to cut. Unfortunately, their narrator seemed to be exhausted. Matt, Brendan, could you imagine something less inspiring than the way that Donald Trump was reading that teleprompter?
Well, yeah, my work here is done. I mean, it feels like, why do we need to vote for you if you've already gave us this, Donald?
I'm not quite sure this dynamic works. We know that almost a quarter of Republican voters in 2016 voted because of that empty Supreme Court seat. I mean, I think it's one of the most underreported and underattributed reasons given in the myriad reasons that Hillary Clinton lost that election. But it was significant. It is hard to say that you create that type of urgency when you say, we got 6-3 now, and you're just going to sit back and watch the cascading of precedent, essentially.
Like, if he loses, it's because people are tired of winning.
Exactly.
Well, how quickly can they turn this victory into fear of court packing on the part of the Democrats?
That I think is exactly it. I think the conservatives, they are motivated by aggrievement and the potential for aggrievement. And so I think that's what the attempt is going to be. And that is why I think, one of the reasons, I don't know what Joe Biden's, how open he is to expanding the court. But one of the reasons why he has been very reluctant to take a position on it, I think, is for that, to not give conservatives a toehold. Now, with that said, according to Ryan Grimm at The Intercept, more than 20 New York progressive elected officials are now calling on Chuck Schumer to commit to expanding the Supreme Court. And when we spoke to Brian Fallon the other day from Demand Justice, who was a former Schumer staffer, he talked about how Chuck Schumer is doing a lot to develop relationships with progressive groups, national progressive groups that are based in New York, some obviously local progressive groups in New York State, but those national progressive groups that are based in New York, Chuck Schumer is doing that to cover his left flank from a primary. And people know this. They are pressuring him to not just come out as an individual senator which would be sufficient if he was an individual senator, but he is the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. And in the event that the Democrats take the Senate a week from now, then any subsequent days it takes to count the rest of the ballots, or are allowed to, there is going to be growing pressure on Chuck Schumer to actually take a leadership role in this attempt to expand the Supreme Court. We're going to be talking more about this in the coming days and weeks, obviously. But as we said with Ari Berman, that the danger is, of course, and one of the reasons why Donald Trump, at least publicly stated he wanted Amy Coney Barrett on that bench prior to the election, was so that she could rule on any election-related materials. And certainly the ruling that we saw regarding Wisconsin last night gives people a lot of pause.